You're listening to Fandoms. I'm your host, Brody Otway. Join me as I interview a guest about anything from veganism to atheism. Today on the show, we'll be talking to Unquestionable Calvin about atheism. Welcome to back to the show, Calvin. You were previously on for Yu-Gi-Oh! Like back in the first 10. I think you were number 6.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah, I remember talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! That was a lot of fun. You sent me some cards, which are still part of my collection. So thank you for
Deadly.
those. That was super awesome care package. So yeah, it's good to be back. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, I'm glad they got to you. So, for somebody who's somehow not familiar in this day and age, what is atheism?
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I guess atheism, like to its core, bottom line, super simple. It's by if you look up definition of atheism, that's typically what I adhere to, and it's the lack of a belief in a god or gods. So it's not a declaration that there is no God, that I can prove that there is no God. I can't. It's kind of an agnostic position, because I identify technically as an agnostic atheist, which I mean we can talk more about that
Same.
later. But yeah, it's just bottom line, it's the lack of a belief in a god or gods. If you don't believe in a god, then you're an atheist. That, pretty simple.
Yeah, I was first introduced to the concept around, I think I was 10 years old. My friend Jordan told me he was an atheist, and I was like, what is that? And he explained it to me. And like slowly over time, I started to question things because I was raised kind of loose Protestant, and we only really did church on like holidays and stuff. But like, it was kind of like none of it really made sense to me, and I started thinking about things. And then I had a friend who was atheist, and then he also didn't believe, and it kind of just it was actually I went to Catholic school in 10th grade for a year because of theater stuff. And it was religion class that fully cemented it, where I'm like, there's so much ridiculousness here that, like, if I'm supposed to follow everything in this Bible that you're teaching me, I'm already going to hell.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's interesting because like I never did like I don't know, I never went to like a Christian school or like a religious school or anything. And religion wasn't like super heavily enforced in my household. It was what I call it, a lot of finger waving. So like, hey, watch out, Jesus is watching, watch what you're doing. But not a whole lot of like enforcement.
Yeah, that's kind of how my family was as well.
On days when we would go to church, of course. And around like once in a while at the dinner table, we'd, do like a family prayer or something like that. But yeah, I mean, in your school, did you like read the Bible at all? Did they have you read the Bible or anything?
We didn't read, we did like Bible study parts where like we had to like learn like things out of the Bible. And I don't know what drove him to do it, but he put ridiculous Bible quotes up on the board one day, and as I was reading them, I was like, what the fuck? And I think one of them is like, if your testicles don't work, you don't get to go into heaven. And I was like, that's 90% of people over the age of 50. Like, if you're shooting blanks, like, I went through chemo, I shoot blanks, so that means I'm going to hell. Like, okay,
That's
cool.
funny.
And like the fact that it's like just really silly ones. I think it was like you can't trim your beard or something. And I was like, well, I've been shaving since I was 12, so
Yeah.
I've been going to hell for a while.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of like what happened with me, I guess, is that I wasn't really sure where I like positioned myself religiously when I was, my late teens, early 20s ish. So I picked up a Bible and I read it, and by the end of it, I was like, I don't know if I necessarily say that I don't believe that this God exists, but not a big fan of what he was doing and the things that he was saying and condoning, and not intervening in. That was kind of concerning. So and some of the laws that were in there were obviously not cool. And so I still didn't necessarily want to call myself an atheist because I still believe that maybe this God was real. He just was kind of a jerk. So then I read the Bible again and annotated it the whole time. And I have my, annotated Bible here that I have been studying for quite some time. And I considered myself an atheist by the time I reached the New Testament, when I started to really dive into like each individual claim that is made in the Bible. That's really what the annotated Bible here. I know they're probably isn't camera, but
No, but it is full of sticky notes and
yeah,
little tabs. Like, holy cow! Yeah, you have gone through.
and I mean, these are all claims that
Wow.
is being made about reality. And so that's like stuff I wanted to remember, be able to reflect back to. And eventually that led to, my deconstruction. And then I started sharing it with other people and, on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. And yeah, people, I guess, really are really interested on what the Bible actually says from the opinions of someone who's actually read it and current like studies. I read it just about every day. And I would argue that I know it better than some Christians do.
What do you think it was that made you decide to start making content about it on TikTok?
So funny enough, so it's okay. Everything started on kind of TikTok. Really, it all started with my like podcast that I used to do, Unquestionable with Calvin Smith. I don't do it anymore, but you can still go listen to it. Kind of lays out my deconstruction process throughout. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I made a TikTok because I'm also a musician. So to kind of spread my music more, I had a friend who was a musician. He was like, dude, look, I posted a video on TikTok, got thousands of views, and now I've got thousands of followers in like one video. And I was like, well, that's really crazy. You're spreading your music that easily. So I went home that day and I made a TikTok account and I posted a couple videos of me playing music, just singing songs and playing my guitar and doing covers, yada yada. And I was getting comments of people like talking about God and like Christ as Lord, and like not acknowledging that I'm literally putting my heart on my sleeve with these songs. People are just like talking about a God and stuff, and like I already was an atheist. I already had my Bible done by this point and everything. So I just started responding to some of these comments that were being made because they were starting to really annoy me. And I already kind of was looking into, obviously I was really into like deconstruction, that kind of era, and watching like the Atheist Experience, a big call-in atheist show and everything. And yeah, I just started sharing my Bible with Christians on the internet, and some not Christians really took a liking to it. And that's basically what I do now is I kind of teach Christians and other religious people too that what are in their religious doctrines. Because I mean, I have I've got a Book of Mormon here that I'm starting to do the same thing too. I've got a Quran, I've got a Talmud from Judaism, I've got a Bhagavad Gita, satanic Bibles over there. I've got like 6 or 7 different kinds of Bibles. And so that's kind
Wow.
of my thing, is that I like kind of show religious people what they are actually following. And it's like, do you really think that this is like, do you think that you need any of this extra baggage to just be a good person? Like, why do you need to be a good person because of this like monster that's doing these monstrous things? And that's kind of
Yeah.
what I do really now.
Yeah, I definitely have met people whose morality is definitely tied to their religion. And like, I respect religion and things like that. Like, for individuals, like, I'll never tell you to like what to believe or anything like that. Like, to each their own, as long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't give a shit.
But yeah, I would agree there that it's you don't have to believe in like a god or whatever it may be to just be a half decent person.
Yes, and but, like, I respect the fact of, like, it gives certain people comfort, like, the thought of an afterlife and stuff like that, and I can understand that because, like, for me, like, mortality freaks me the hell out, and I wish I could believe in that kinda stuff.
Rightfully so. It's freaky.
Like, it's something just, like, I think about sometimes, and it kinda, like, I found my dad passed away when I was, like, a teenager and stuff, and it kinda, I had
Oh,
to go through a
sorry to hear
lot of
that.
therapy and stuff, and it was a lot to deal with, and I was, like, through that whole thing, I gained a huge respect for religion because I was like, if I could believe in that stuff, I would, but, like, my brain just can't wrap my head around that, like, it's too I think too logically in that kinda stuff, it's like.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot easier to I don't know if I would say necessarily say easier. I think that it's more beneficial to people to realize that like this is the one life that we know that we get. I'm not for sure if we do get a second chance,
Right?
in an afterlife or whatever. I do know that this life exists and this is reality. So why don't I just make the best of what I have here? Maybe
Exactly.
there is nothing after, but I'm having a good time now. Why ruin it, right? Why be a Debbie Downer all the time? Why be a hateful person? Why hurt other people? Like, why? I don't
Exactly.
like to be hurt, so why would I want to hurt other people? I like to be happy, so I want other people to be happy. I don't need like a god for any of these things to just be a half decent person. Like, realize that like this could be the one life we get, and so like why spend all of that time and energy worshiping something and hoping for something that we literally will never know is there until it's too late.
Yeah. So is there anything in the Bible that really shocked you when you found it going through there?
A lot. Actually, it's really hard to say because, like, page one, like within the first couple paragraphs, it starts to, throw you off. It says that there's plants on the earth before there was a sun and moon. And it says that there were, I think, 4 days before there was a sun and moon. So, like, how can there be a day and night cycle before there's a thing that makes the day and night cycle? Like, how does that make sense?
I remember I think you made a TikTok on that, right? I think that
Yeah,
was
I
like the
did.
first one I seen of your TikToks when I joined the app. I remember just if you were like think the first person I followed on TikTok cuz I downloaded it cuz my editor Isabel was like, "Hey, you needed to do TikToks and stuff, like it'll help you
Yeah.
promote." And I was like, "Fine. I will bite the bullet and download TikTok." And then I was like, "Calvin does TikTok." So I was like, I'm gonna follow Calvin. And then yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. So and that was the first one I seen of yours. I just typed in your thing, and yeah,
Yep, yep. I've been there for almost, I think, 4 years now. I think I want to say like 2021 or something is when I first hopped on there, and yeah, it's been great. I'm starting to get a following. I'm up to 123,000 followers on
damn,
TikTok. I think 123,000, and then on Instagram I just hit 27,000. So
holy,
that's nice over on Instagram.
yeah, you're doing good.
So yeah, people seem to really. I do like call-in shows all the time, like with the atheist community of Austin, a place where like really helped me with my deconstruction. Now I can actually aid them in their mission with helping people like deconstruct from religious, trauma and stuff. So it's really cool to be able to work with them. A lot of people that have like really, I've kind of even looked up to and have inspired like the work that I do and everything. It's really cool that like now I'm able to like work with a lot of them. It's really interesting, very fulfilling.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Yeah, checked really quick there, and I'm at 308 on TikTok. So you're killing me. My highest tick viewed one is 7,592.
Hell yeah. Dude, you gotta start somewhere, man.
Everything else is around 100. So I had one one to break 1,000, but it's good.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta start somewhere. I started with 0 followers there too, and honestly, my music stuff did not catch. The first, like, religious response video I did, I remember it was, a Noah's flood thing. Someone was talking about, like, Noah's flood in the comments. I was arguing with them. So, like, I'm gonna make a video about this, whatever. I'm gonna respond to this guy. And I, like, debunked Noah's flood in, like, 3 minutes, over a TikTok video, and I, like, put images and stuff in the background. And that video, from my, like, videos that were getting like 1, 2, 300 views at the most. This one got like 20,000 views, and that like blew my mind. And I was like, whoa, okay, so people like this stuff. And so then I did another one and another one, and they just like kept like pop, 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 and I just caught on. I guess every once in a while I'll do a music thing. I'll still play my music and everything on there and shout myself out, but the religious deconstruction stuff really caught on, which is understandable. It's kind of a hot topic nowadays.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good that you're still supporting what you're really passionate about too with your music
Yeah.
and stuff. But what are some of the run me through some of your points with the flood, other than obviously like Noah having two of every animal on one boat?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So the thing is with man, it's like, do you want to talk about the actual boat itself or the actual flood itself? Either
Let's
it's
go
like
with the boat first.
the actual boat. Okay, so the actual boat, like with if we're talking about like a global worldwide flood, which that's what like the Bible is talking about, is that it is global, it's all encompassing, it's taller than the highest mountains, it's covering all land. There's nowhere to go. This boat being the type of wood that it's described as, which is described as being gopher wood, which is only a wood that's found in like South Florida, by the way. You can't find this wood. So it's like, what is this Middle Eastern guy doing with wood that's only found in Florida? Very weird. And it's like also like how would they like what very weird at the time though of this writing, like gopher wood, like the translation that it comes back to was total nonsense. Like we have no, they assumed that it meant cypress wood. Anyways, a boat purely made out of cypress would not be able to withstand the tides that this type of massive storm. Oh, but God miracles. Okay, that's but God's magic, he can protect the boat. That's the argument that you get a lot of times. It's like, okay, prove it, right? Yeah, another thing with the boat, like you said, two of each animal makes no sense. And funny enough, it says two of each kind of animal, which a kind of animal is not like a thing inside. Like that's not like a good descriptive term. So like no one even knows what necessarily that means. Like
Right? Like, was Noah collecting every breed of cat and dog, or was he just like, oh, we got a Maine Coon and a and a tabby.
Exactly, right. And it's like, how did the kangaroos get to Australia and back to the Middle East, or to the Middle East and to back to Australia? And how did the penguins get from, the Middle East to Antarctica? Like, how did they get there and with no land bridge in between? And not to mention the flood itself, it would cause like so what would happen is the water covering the entire planet would actually kind of cause the planet's core to boil from the inside out, so it would basically make the entire earth completely unlivable if it was completely covered in water at any point, because we would all just it would just boil all of life.
That's wild.
It can't happen. Not to mention there is physically not enough water on the planet to cover even any, like, other than maybe like a quarter of an inch of water across the entire earth, which I don't think any of us are drowning in like a quarter of an inch of water
Right?
worldwide.
It's like, oh, okay, how do we drink this?
So scientifically, it makes no sense. The wording through the Bible is spotty, and not to mention like the flood kills all living things on the planet except for these, two of each kind and eight people and their alcoholic father living on a boat. These eight people having to repopulate the entire earth by themselves. You see how like inbreeding starts to be a thing there, so that really doesn't check out either.
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah.
none of it makes sense. I actually made a podcast on it, like when I was doing my podcast Unquestionable with Calvin Smith. It was probably like a 10-15 minute long podcast where I just broke down everything about Noah's flood and just like totally flattened it out, debunked it.
Yeah, I was thinking about it because literally a few minutes after we scheduled this, I was working up at mining camp I'm at, and I turn on the TV and we scheduled this podcast, and I was thinking about Noah's Ark for some reason, and then a Futurama came on and they made a Noah's Ark joke. It's the Zap Brannigan Leela episode where they think they're the last two people, and he's like, "Our kids will make kids with wait, is that how the Bible works? Ew." And I was just like, fuck, what timing? Like, what impeccable
That's
timing
so
to turn a
funny.
TV onto that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, do you celebrate holidays still, even though you're an atheist? Because I know I still do Christmas, Thanksgiving, all that stuff with my family. Like, I doesn't bother me. Like, Christmas for me is more my daughter's birthday because she's born on Christmas.
Nice.
But yeah, it's like I still do all the holidays.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, same. Honestly, me too. Yeah, I do all the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever other holiday you want to throw in there is candy, presents, food, and family. I'm in it. Easter, obviously. Yeah, I'm totally here for it. I don't have any of the religious connotations behind it. Like, I don't actually believe like Jesus was born, Christmas Day or anything. I'm a Christmas baby too. I was born on December 22nd, so I'm a the week of Christmas.
Oh, my daughter's directly on Christmas Day,
Man,
25th, and then my son was born Easter the year he was born, and
no
yeah,
way.
and my grandmother calls me and goes, "Oh, the birth and death of Jesus," and I
Oh my
died.
god.
I died. I was just
Dude, my grandma would have went freaking nuts for that. That's crazy.
yeah.
What are the coincidences though? But yeah, I mean, I still celebrate all those holidays. I just don't have any of the religious stuff. I go and hang out with my family still on Christmas Day and Easter. They all gather around and do their prayer circle, and I'm one of the few that has their head poking up, seeing who's looking. I'm the one who's like, I see you over there, like you're not praying. So I keep it to myself, but obviously I defend myself if that type of talk comes up. But my family, they're all very accepting, and they all keep their religious beliefs kind of behind closed doors for the most part. So I've never had like really any fallouts as far as like religion goes with any family member, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they all know what I do. I know where they stand with religion, and we just choose not to speak of it. And they don't care that I don't participate in their prayer circle, and that's fine. We just keep it cordial between each other. So like that's a big thing that like I'm kind of pushing for too, is that like we can have these different beliefs as long as they're not hurting each other, obviously, but we can still be cool with each other.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was thinking about, like, today, actually, the drive home, my shuttle driver was playing a lot of right-wing radio, and it was two people, like, screaming at each other and just, like, literally name calling. I'm like, this kind of debate does not make me want to listen to either of your
No.
sides. Like, I want to listen to people calmly, like, unemotionally explain their thing, not get angry, name calling. Nobody like that shit's
No, no one's gonna even entertain changing their position if they're getting yelled at.
yeah,
They're gonna close their
exactly.
doors up. So that's another thing that I do is it's called street epistemology, and it's like I stand on the street corner with the sign says "Ask an Atheist," and I just stand there and I wait for people to approach me. They see the sign clearly says "Ask an Atheist" in big letters. They can choose to stop and speak with me, or they can continue on their day. So like I'm there to kind of set the example for the street preacher that sets up across the street from where I do, and he stands up on a soapbox with his megaphone and Bible and like big like kill the gays like signs and stuff like
Oh,
that.
fucking hate that shit.
And I stand across the street from him and I set up my stuff and I just stand there quietly and allow people if they want to stop, they can. They don't have to. I'm not. I do have a live stream camera. I'm always live streaming both for safety and for just so I want to be able to record the conversation to show to other people and to look back on too for myself and see where I can improve with the conversation and just kind of push for a cordial conversation rather than debating and screaming at each other because no one's gonna listen to what you're saying if you're screaming at them.
Yeah, and like my only really negative experience with a religious person was actually some people trying to hand out pamphlets outside place once, and it wasn't because they were handing out the pamphlets and stuff. I walked by the first time and I politely was like, no, no, thank you, I'm agnostic, like I don't want to join your church. And they had a small child with them and it was minus 30 out and this kid didn't have mitts on. And I was walking to Tim Hortons and I come back with my coffee and they hand the kid a pamphlet and they like whisper in the kid's ear to go run up to me. And I just like politely was like, no, sorry, kid, like I don't want that. Sorry. And I could just see how red this kid's hands were. And I just like looked at the parents. I'm like, if your God is okay with you making that kid stand out here in the fucking cold and you guys aren't even thinking enough to have mitts on that kid, like that is not a God that I want to follow. I am sorry. And I went into the Dollarama near me, bought the kid mitts, and was like, "Here you go, put them on your fucking kid." And I don't know. They were still there the next day. Didn't seem the kid had mitts now, but like fucking, it pissed me off so much, and I was just like, I can't get behind that kind of like that. It's
And yeah, I agree. That's messed up. And like what's sad is that I can nearly bet you that the kid not having mitts was on purpose to make you feel sorry for them. Because the kid didn't have mitts, to feel sorry for us. So you would just grab the pamphlet. Just grab the pamphlet, man. His hands are freezing, please. Like I just I don't want it to be the case that they're like forcing that kid to do this, but like from my experience with
yeah, that never even crossed my
these
mind.
types of almost you could almost say they're cult ideologies to do that type of thing. That could definitely be the case. I talked to an ex Jehovah's Witness at one point on my old podcast, and they would tell me about all the things that their parents, because they were also trans, so like that whole experience of them like not being accepted growing up in the Jehovah's Witness church was like really crazy for them. And yeah, they would tell like everything from like the clothes that they were wearing to the people that they talked to what time of the day they were going out to how much time they had to spend going from door to door and who they had to go with, and everything was just pure control, and it's purely just because God says so, and that's just not something that like you said, that I would want to be a part of, even if it did exist or it was real.
Yeah, and there was one. My mom is thankfully a lot more chill about it now. But like when I first was like, yeah, no, I don't believe in God. She was like, how? How could you? And her husband was like, then how do you explain the trees? And I was like, I mean, you explain the trees. Like, use your, like,
Well, I'm not a botanist, so that's not my responsibility.
I was like, I don't know where, like, I was like, do you mean like seeds? Because we've got, and he's like, no, where did they come from originally? And I was like, I don't fucking know. I wasn't there. And
Exactly. It's like they try that's like shifting the burden of proof, right? Which is like a common thing that religious people do is that they say, okay, well, prove that that's not the case. It's like, no, you are making extraordinary claims. You are saying that there is an invisible magic man in the sky who is hand making seeds and putting them in the ground and making them grow. That is we have scientific processes for the opposite that explain all that process from the microbial, life all the way up to it sprouting into a tree. We have evidence of that. Nowhere in there do we need to say a god did this. So like why are you're making the extraordinary claim? So the burden of proof lands on you.
Yeah, my friend Jordan I had mentioned earlier, they drove him up to our camp one time, and I was already up at our camp, and they were bringing him up to surprise me. And I guess it came out somehow that he didn't believe in God on the drive up. And so like they weren't like super like aggressive or anything, but when he showed up, he's like, "Yeah, so the entire drive, your mom and your stepdad were trying to convert me." And I was like, I am so sorry. And we watched a lot of Robot Chicken at that age. And
Yeah.
there's the one guy who goes, "I found Jesus." And my
Yeah.
friend Jordan just pops out of the water at one point. His big floppy afro flops back and he goes, "I found Jesus." And my mom was like, "Oh my gosh." And he's like, "Just kidding." And just
Oh
goes
my
back to
god.
swimming. And it
Just
was
crushed her dreams.
it was amazing. I was dying. I was like, okay. I was like, well, if I'm doing an atheism podcast, I gotta mention that story. So, Jordan, you better fucking listen to this episode.
For real. That's hilarious.
Yeah. It was good times. It was good times. So, what do you think in the Bible? Is there anything that you do like about it, or did going through it kind of just make you think, this is all just awful?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a common misconception of my position is that like I think that the Bible is just like total trash garbage, one, trash, right? Not really my position. There is fine things that the Bible says. It does say to like love thy neighbor. It just contradicts the things that it says. It does say good things like love people and treat others the way you want to be treated. But then it also says to enslave them and plunder them and grape them and marry them and what have you on top of the also love them. So it's like it's just contradictory. So like it does say good things. So when Christians say like, oh, but this verse says that God is loving, I can turn around and give them XYZ verse that says the opposite. So like that's why the Bible is fine. It's a compilation of good and bad things. It's just people trying to explain the world as they knew it with the information that they had at the time, which was not a whole lot of information. And it wasn't very good information. It wasn't very accurate, obviously. Just the thing is, like, as far as the morality aspect of it goes, you can find all of those same values, those same ideas in previous religions and previous non-religious ideas. Like the golden rule is not a religious idea. That's something that the Christianity adopted from, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it comes from like atheistic Hindu views, if I'm not mistaken, which is obviously much older than Christianity. But even so, like that rule of thumb isn't religious inherently. It's just like, like I said, treat others the way that you want to be treated. Don't do harm unto others. It's pretty simple. Like you don't need anywhere in that explanation do you need a God to be plugged in there.
Right?
So that's the thing is I just think that you can be a good person and have, objectively superior moral values without the need for the supernatural or extraterrestrial baggage.
Right? What do you think of like do you have any kind of opinion on the ancient aliens crap, like all that stuff?
Dude, dude, if you talked to me like 7, 8 years ago, I would have been dead center in my conspiracy theory era. So I more so, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I more so identify as an ex conspiracy theorist because that's more so like kind of where I really had to deconstruct. I believe that like reptilian aliens were running the government, and I thought that like
Oh, you went deep. See, I loved that kind of content.
I thought that there were like dinosaurs living in the Amazon, that the earth was hollow and there's an ancient civilization living in it, and that there's an ancient civilization that lived on Earth 12,800 years ago. And Atlantis was the ancient civilization, all that stuff. I was super into it.
Wow, so you went like deep. Yeah, like I watched like YouTube videos on that stuff all for like entertainment, and then you actually like went deep in with like studying it
Yeah.
all and like looking, and
That's
that's
actually like what my whole like kind of internet presence started with, me spewing conspiracies because like I had all this stuff, all these shitty weird ass ideas that I had floating in my mind and I needed an output for it. So I started just making blogs. I made a blog page and I started writing blogs about like alien species and like UFO abductions and cryptids and all these weird supernatural ghosts, supernatural stuff. And yeah, that's kind of like where it started from there. And then I wanted to make a podcast where I talked to people who were like abducted by aliens and stuff like that. And that's kind of where my podcast was born, was wanting to do that. And so at the beginning of the show, I was believing a lot of these things. But as I was talking to these people and having these conversations and getting better with my evidence searching, I started to deconvert from those ideas. So, like episode one, I am a totally different person than I am by like episode 40 at the end of the show, because I didn't believe in like anything by then.
That must be such a cool listen though, like seeing you like literally like unconvince yourself. That's
Yeah.
wild.
I mean, you literally can listen to my deconstruction throughout the whole show, because that was the thing, is like I wanted to look at these accounts, very factual, but unbiased. And it turned out, as the more unbiased I was looking at things, the more it was leaning on the side of like, oh, that UFO abduction didn't actually happen. This sighting isn't real. This Bigfoot sighting is just a hoax. It every time I like started to look at it more unbiased, instead of looking for the evidence that I wanted to be true. Like I wanted Bigfoot to be real, so I would look for evidence of Bigfoot, not evidence against Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So when I started to kind of look at the counter evidences for these things, that's when I was like, wow, maybe I am in the wrong here.
Yeah, and like I really, really wanted to believe in aliens so bad, and I was
Yeah.
like looking for like alien podcasts, and that's actually led to how I had a podcast because I stumbled upon alien theorists theorizing. The guys are
Yep.
great; they're hilarious.
Yep. Yep. I love that one.
And yeah, and they a bunch of times were just like, if you do want to, if you just bored, start a podcast. If you're just bored, start a podcast on their show. And then when I was going through chemo and stuff, I was like, you know what? They're right. I should. And then I reached out to Braden, had him on for episode 10 of
Oh,
Fandoms. He's
nice.
coming
That's
back
sweet.
for an episode on wrestling. Zell might come on when he's not doing carpentry, I think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. That's sweet.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to talk to Zell about. We didn't pick a topic, but I hopped in on one of their live streams the other day. So, you know,
Heck yeah.
anyone listening should go show them some love because there would not be a Fandoms without those guys. Zell is actually the one who recommended this mic and my setup and everything. Like they were huge help. They're such deadly guys. Like I love them.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but back to the whole atheism thing. Got kind of off topic there quite a bit. Yeah, no.
No, we kind of stayed on topic there.
Yeah, but with the aliens, where do you stand now? Because like with me, with all this like government releasing stuff, like it feels faker than any of the fake stuff did to me.
It doesn't feel genuine, yeah. Okay, so I think that it's totally possible, plausible, even more than likely, that there is some sort of life out there.
Yeah,
I think that it's honestly, you're kind of dumb to say that it's not even a possibility. I think that is very much a possibility. It's a plausibility. I think that it's almost certain that there is.
yeah.
I mean, look at that. There was just a discovery like the last week or so where they find signs of life on Mars. It could be signs of ancient life.
Oh wow,
They're actually studying it because of like certain marks that they found on like some rocks and stuff are like really weird and unnatural, and like they look very purposeful.
that's cool.
So they're like examining those, and they're like, wow, this could be like signs of possibly, some ancient fire starting or something here, like what's going on here. So yeah, that's like a recent discovery. And like there's absolutely water on Mars, like absolutely. And with water comes life, almost certainly. So I think it's, yeah, more than likely. But I just don't think that they're little green men that are walking around here on Earth. I don't think that any reptilian aliens are running the government or anything like that. As far as like UFOs and go, I think that all I can say is that they're UFOs. They're called that for a reason. They're unidentified.
Right?
So if you start to call them alien, or if you start to call them balloons or whatever, you've just identified it. So it is no longer a UFO if you say it's extraterrestrial, because it's extraterrestrials. You just identified it. So that drives me crazy. People call it's UFOs or aliens. It's like, no, you just you just identified it as being alien, so you can't call it a UFO anymore. But we don't know. It's just, I see it as like it's a thing in the sky. I can't really say whether or not that they're like machines or crafts. I can't even say that for sure. They're just very odd shapes that are doing very weird things that are going against some laws of physics here. I will absolutely say that. But it could also be camera tricks. It could be, media manipulation. Who knows what could be going on? That's all I can say is that I don't know, but I don't think that they're extraterrestrial because I don't have a reason to think that yet.
Yeah, yeah. And like It's crazy how like people can fall into like cults and stuff too. Like I've never understood some of those things. Like I know some Mormons who are like they're some of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my life. But like
But they're part of a cult.
yeah, it's like once I watched that South Park episode and then started Googling it and realizing how much of it was accurate, I was like, that's what they believe. And like, I'll never forget the day that one of our teachers in high school walked up to his girlfriend and she was complaining about not getting laid because he's too religious. And then he goes, "Oh, your boyfriend's Mormon? How many other girlfriends does he have?" And I don't know if he meant it genuinely because it was a Catholic school, but she just turned beet red and like stormed out of the room. And I was just like, what the fuck? And they're like, it's a joke. It's either like Mormons are allowed to marry more than one woman or something. I'm like, what? I was because like the ones I knew weren't their family wasn't like that. Like they were a monogamous partner. His parents were monogamous, no extra people. Like it was, they're very like from the outside, they just look like a very normal family. So it was kind of wild.
Yeah, but it's once you dig deeper than the surface, it's like you realize that like as I'm reading the Book of Mormon, I'm finding that it actually is a very racist religion, very racist. It says that like people with black skin are cursed by God, and that's their curse given by God,
What the fuck?
and they're a filthy, disgusting people, and it says it on multiple occasions. I was trying to look for my Book of Mormon laying around here somewhere, but yeah, I've got all those like tabs, noted up of all the time just thus far that it's talked about how, the lighter your skin, the more like pure of heart you are and like the closer to God you are. And if you are black skinned, then that's like a curse that God has given to you. So
So like what if you're pasty but tan well? Because like as soon as my sleeve goes, I'm pasty white, and then like I'm pretty tan otherwise. So like am I only pure in the winter?
I guess so. I guess so. You're only half pure. But yeah, that's really something like in the Book of Mormon that really kind of took me aback is that like, not only also in the first like couple pages of it, it has like paintings and pictures of people, and it has just like super white European Jesus on there, like, blonde hair, blue eyes, and it's like a serious portrait. It's like our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and it's like just a super white dude.
And it's like, how can you believe like Jesus? Like it literally says in the Bible that Jesus is born in the Middle East, all
Yeah,
that. How the
yeah.
fuck did all this shit end up in America? And like, wasn't Joseph Smith visited by a white indigenous person? Like he claimed like it was an indigenous, the original natives, and they were white.
Yeah, I actually pinpointed where it says, I believe it's called Zeniba, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds
I
right.
looked it up, and that's actually like southwestern Iowa. So like the Book of Mormon is taking place in like southwest Iowa, like kind of in a little corner there.
Isn't that like Diabetes Central?
Yeah, so like Jesus is from Iowa, everybody. According to the Mormons, Jesus is from Iowa. He loves, what do they got? Potatoes, corn? What do they got going on there?
My coworker this shift told me they love pop. She said they're addicted to pop there.
Okay, all
So
right.
I don't know. She said they have a lot of fatty liver disease. So maybe Jesus had a real fatty liver.
Jesus had high cholesterol, I
It's a
guess.
miracle that he didn't. That's why they thought he was special. He was the only skinny guy around.
That's it. That's it. You just that's the newest testament right there.
Oh, well, it's been a blast having you on, Calvin. I cannot wait to have you on our other show, Hey Anime, and talk Death Note. We're going to do it in two parts, I think. Episodes
Yeah.
1 to, I believe it's even 25 for the first half. 25 or
Yeah.
26, it's around there. I looked yesterday. I can't remember. It's been a long day, but yeah, I am pumped to talk Death Note. It has been years. My atheist friend Jordan, actually, me and him did a 2-day Death Note marathon by accident one time. I'll tell you a bit
Nice.
more about it when we do the episode itself. But yeah,
Yeah. That
Jordan's come up twice today, so that's kind of funny.
Heck yeah, yeah, heck yeah, man. I'm super excited to record some other shows with you, and had a ton of fun recording Yu-Gi-Oh and with you and doing this atheism stuff. So yeah, you invite me on anytime. Happy to talk about anything.
Yeah, and if you're curious about Calvin's atheism TikToks, he is Unquestionable Calvin on TikTok. He makes great content. He like I was saying before with people who tend to get aggressive, he doesn't talk down to you, he doesn't yell at you. He explains his points calmly, and
I try.
yes, he presents it well. Like he definitely puts emotion into it, but that's so it's not
I give
boring.
the energy that I get.
Yes.
If you're cool with me, I'll be cool with you. But if you want to get crazy and be a jerk with me, I can do that too. I can be that guy too.
Oh, I have not seen those ones. I want to see some spicy Calvin.
Oh, there's plenty of spicy me out there.
All right, I guess I'll be scrolling through some more. But thanks again for coming on. Hope everyone checks them out. And yeah, have a great evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're listening.